Welcome to Rouse Rising. I'm Katie, and in today's video, I'm sharing with you what we ate this week, breakfast, lunch, dinner, as well as food preservation. We're gonna make some elderberry syrup, which I'm really excited about. I'm making a bulk batch of that. And then we had a big harvest this week that has kept us very busy. So I'm sharing all of that with you, as well as how we cooked up some of that harvest. Remember my last grocery haul? I scored a bunch of chicken for a really good price. So I bought the chicken, I brought it home, and I decided I was going to can it up and make it shelf stable. I don't need any more meat in the freezer. I've got to save space for this hunting season. So we're going to take all of these chicken breasts, and I'm going to put 2 chicken breasts per quart. And then I'm going to add some boiling water because I know that this chicken breast, I'm not packing the jars completely full. So I know that this chicken breast isn't going to make enough broth of its own, and I know that it's not going to fill the jar completely. So I am going to add some boiling water to this and just get all of these packed up in these jars filled with water. Then we are going to be pressure canning them in the pressure canner for 90 minutes. Once they're done pressure canning, we are going to take them out, set them on the counter, let them acclimate for 24 hours. And after 24 hours, I'm going to wash the jars, scrub them with soap and water, hot soapy water, and then I'm going to label my jars and put them on the shelf for shelf stable meat. Then I can grab the chicken off the shelf and add it to chicken pot pie, chicken soup, make chicken salad, chicken enchiladas, you name it, and we can make it with our canned chicken. It's already cooked. It's one less thing for this mama to have to do. So this is what I like to call fast food. This is how we eat fast food. We prepare it in advance, and then on those busy days when we need something quick, we can just go to our canned foods shelf, grab something off of it, and have a delicious homemade meal a lot faster than we could if we drove all the way into town and went out to eat and all of that mess with 5 kids. So this works out really well for us. It saves our family a bunch of money. It saves me a bunch of time. Well, does it actually save a bunch of time because I'm putting in all this work up front? Yes, in the long run it does, because if I wasn't canning this food, what else would I be doing? Probably sitting on my rear watching TV, and I don't have time for that. I don't know who has time for that these days, but this mama doesn't. So I spend my time in the kitchen. Nearly my whole day is spent in the kitchen doing various made from scratch food preparations or food preservation. I also homeschool my kids, so I'm feeding 7 people 3 times a day. My husband is also home full time, so that's been really awesome. There's a lot of food that goes down in this house, so it saves me time if I meal prep ahead when I could just be relaxing. Why relax when I can get myself ahead for the week, the month, the year? So that's what we're doing. Okay, I put the boiling hot water in with my raw chicken, and those jars are going into my Presto pressure canner, and the pressure canner has warm water in it. Also on the back of the stove over there, you see some ground beef, so I am going to can up some ground beef as well because I still have room in my Presto canner. So I want to make sure that I fill it as much as I can. I get as much food in there as I can fit, or if not, I would put some jars of water in there and I would can up some waters for emergency storage. But I have just enough room to can up another quart of meat, so I'm putting ground beef into this jar and then I'm topping it with some more hot water. I'm going to put the lid on and put a teaspoon of salt. I also put a teaspoon of salt in all of those chickens. You probably saw that while I was talking. And the lid, the ring, this is going to go into the pressure canner. Then I'm going to put the lid on the pressure canner, turn on my stove, and allow the pressure canner to come up to temperature. To do that and to make sure the inside is has come up to temperature, you want to make sure that you vent pure steam for 10 solid minutes. So after you turn your burner on, you're going to let it warm up. It's going to start spitting out a little bit of steam, but you want a full blast of steam for 10 solid minutes. Then you put on your pressure weight and you bring your pressure canner up. Where I'm at, I do 13 pounds of pressure. Where you're at may be different based on your elevation and all of that sort of thing. And then after 90 minutes under pressure, 13 pounds of pressure, I turn off my stove, I let it sit for a while, then I take off my weight, I let it sit for a while, then I unscrew the lid, I let it sit for a while with the lid on top, then I take the lid off and I let it sit for about 10 minutes, then I remove my jars. As you can see, the jars are still boiling and beautiful. Now we have 6 jars of meat. 7, right? Because, well, I don't know. I don't remember. But we have a whole bunch of canned meat that I was able to preserve in about under 3 hours total prep time, everything. And now we've got shelf-stable meat. That's going to make my life so much easier in the future. I test every jar lifting by the lid to make sure it's sealed, and we are going to scrub these up, get them cleaned up and back on the shelf. All right, friends, to start out with, you want to have dark purple elderberries. You don't want any green elderberries, any red elderberries, anything like that. So when you're picking your elderberries, you want to make sure that your clusters have some of these dried little raisins on them, and that's how you know that all of your berries are going to be ripe. Also, these berries have a bloom on them like grapes do. So the bloom you wash off with hot water. It takes it right off of there. It cleans them really, really well. And then you're left with these beautiful black elderberries right here. And now we can make our elderberry syrup. So what I'm going to do, oh, and don't be alarmed. When you have elderberries, you're going to have bugs. So these are the bugs that fell off. They froze. They fell off into the bottom of the bag. Pick them out. You have your elderberries all nice and clean here. The stems, like every once in a while, you're going to have a little stem in there. These little tiny stems, yeah, get out as many as you can. But, the majority is berries. And yes, you have a few of these little stems, but they're not going to hurt anything. So don't be alarmed by that. What you don't want to do is put these stems in your elderberry syrup. Let's avoid putting these stems in, but these teeny tiny little pieces of stems, a little bit of those, it's not going to hurt anybody to have some of those. Get rid of as many as you can. And let's throw our spices in here. I'm going to gather those up. I'm going to put this in my Instant Pot, and I'm making a really large batch of elderberry syrup because I am going to be selling a couple of jars to some people around my community. So I've got orders for those, so that's why we are making elderberry syrup today. This is my lineup for my seasonings. We've got whole cloves. We've got some of this amazing Ceylon cinnamon. We've got some ginger powder here. We also have some star anise, and this is something I've been adding recently, so I'm going to add a few of those to this Instant Pot. So we'll do 3 of those in here. We're also going to do about a tablespoon of ginger. But you can use my typical elderberry syrup recipe on my channel. You're probably making the one batch. So we're going to do 2 tablespoons. I know it looks like I'm doing more, but I'm going to do that for that. And you can use cinnamon sticks or whatever you like. I'm using this ground cinnamon because that's what I have. And we're going to do some cloves in there. I'm bulking it. We're bulking it here. So I'm just pretending like I've calculated and triple batch made this elderberry syrup. It's going to turn out just fine. We'll adjust it as we need to, the flavor at the end. I do just enough water to barely, get all the berries submerged. I'll mix this up and I'm just going to let this simmer for 45 minutes. Then I'm going to take my potato masher, mash up these berries, get all that goodness out of them. I'm going to mash it all up and then strain it through cheesecloth. All right, so then we've just been mashing up these berries, mashing them all up. You can see the seeds are coming out, and then the pulp is getting emulsified with the berry juice, and then we are going to strain all of this out with cheesecloth. Next, when it's time to strain the berries, you can do it 2 ways. This way is going to leave a lot more pulp and pectin in the berries. I'm not using cheesecloth. This is just a fine mesh strainer. So it is going to keep all of the seeds from going into this, which is what we want. We don't want any seeds in this. And it's going to allow a lot of the pulp from the berry skin to go through, which is really nice. It is going to make it a little bit more jelly-like when it cools. So the elderberry syrup will need to be shaken and mixed up because it will be clumpy and jelly from all of the fresh pectin from the fresh berries. So next we are straining it through some cheesecloth. So I'm just doing this to show you guys the different ways that you can strain it. Obviously the cheesecloth is going to reserve much more of the pulp and just the liquid's going to go through this. So you're going to have a very purple liquid. It's not going to be as thick as straining it through the fine mesh strainer. I prefer the fine mesh strainer for my customers. When I bulk batch bake or make elderberry syrup, I often run it through a cheesecloth because that just reserves so much more of all of the solid material, which my clients prefer a nice, syrup without any extra pulp in it. But the pulp is beneficial still, so I prefer to have the pulp in there, but they like a nice clean syrup with nothing floating to the bottom. So that's why we strain it through our cheesecloth. It still has some pulp that settles to the bottom, but not quite as much as when you do through the fine mesh strainer. So then we just squeeze all the good stuff out of this. We want to get all of that amazing juice, and then you can take your pulp that's in your bag and you can put some more boiling, you can just put it in a pot of boiling water in the bag like this and make yourself some elderberry tea. It's going to be some very diluted elderberry syrup, but you can have yourself a nice pitcher or a nice tea kettle full of elderberry tea. So then we add our elderberry syrup to 1 cup of honey. So for a pint of syrup, I do 1 cup of honey and then fill it up with the elderberry liquid, and then we're going to put a lid on it and shake it up. So I do this when the elderberry liquid is still warm. I don't let it cool completely. You want it still warm but not hot so that your honey can emulsify, or so that your honey can marry with the elderberry and make a delicious syrup. So I'm wiping the rim off, and then I'm going to place a lid and a band. I am not going to can this elderberry syrup because that will denature the honey, and we want the honey to have all of its beneficial components, all of its beneficials to be left intact. We do not want to denature the honey by overheating it. So we don't can our elderberry syrup. We can the elderberry juice, the spiced juice, and then we can add it to our honey later. I've got to feed myself as well, so I'm going to share with you kind of what I've been eating. I love greens. Greens is one of the things that I can have on my diet, so I try to eat greens nearly every day with some protein. And I guess you could say I'm kind of a keto carnivore diet. My care provider recommended that I go keto which I'm working on it, but we're doing really good. Here's my 3 eggs with my greens, and these are pastured eggs that I get from my neighbor down the road. They're just beautiful. And then I had this beef roast in my slow cooker. So I cut potatoes in half, and I put the potatoes down in the broth and the fat of the beef that's cooking in my slow cooker. And I'm getting those out now to serve up for the kids. So they're having basically baked potatoes, and some of them wanted meat, some of them did not want meat. So we just made them these loaded baked potatoes. It was a great way for me to multitask. I got the meat cooked up and then these potatoes for lunch. So now we've got meat for a few days, and the kids are fed a nourishing lunch with lots of tallow that these potatoes have absorbed. So they're very fatty, delicious potatoes with lots of flavor. And we put on them butter, salt, pepper, cheese, and a little bit of meat on the side. And it was tasty for the kiddos. This is Bodhi's little dish. There you go.
Say thanks, Mom.
These are the faces of 3 young men who have just been on a deer hunt and successfully killed a deer. So now we've got meat in the freezer.
When I got here, he showed me the arrow, and I told him, I was like, oh, that's a dead buck. He's like, are you serious? Are you sure? Like, 100%, like, that's dead, man.
He's like in straight denial about everything.
He loves that shot. He's a trust himself.
Oh my goodness. Nailed it. You nailed it.
Bro,
Nailed
popped
it.
up, like, it didn't go very far.
When he thought he jumped the fence, he was dying right there.
Like,
It's always a learning experience for everybody in the house when we bring home an animal to harvest. The kids love to watch and observe the process. Typically, the men do all of the processing as far as the gut removal, the skin removal, all of that. And then I take care of some of the other processes in the kitchen. But they do all of the heavy dirty work, and then we're going to take this deer to a local butcher and have it sausaged into breakfast sausage so we can have sausage for the year. Our hunting season isn't over yet. We still have my deer tag, and then Aaron has an elk tag, and I also have an elk tag, and those start in October. So we are real hopeful that we're going to get another deer this year. And with that second deer, what we'll do is we'll burger it. We'll just get it turned into burger, except for the back straps and the tenderloin, which we always keep, and we put the back strap into steaks, and then we cook up the tenderloin, which I'm going to show you here in this video. And the rest of it goes off to the butcher shop just because Aaron's back is bad. My back and my shoulders are really bad. And to stand in a kitchen and process a whole animal is very difficult for both of us, just on our bodies alone. The little bit of processing that we did of this animal took its toll on Aaron's body and my body. My neck and shoulders got pretty locked up after the little bit of work that I did, and then Aaron's back was locked up pretty good. So it's worth it to us to pay the $250 that it costs to have the rest of the deer processed, because that saves our bodies. That helps both of us so much, our old injured bodies, that we've got so many back problems between the two of us, and my neck and shoulders are just so bad. So it's worth it to take our animals to the butcher, like I said.
I say, where's the other part of your arrow?
It's
broken.
It went in, right?
Uh-huh.
And the piece that you found first was sticking out. But it went through one shoulder, so every time the buck moves its arm, it gets bent up against the ribs in his arm, so it broke it.
Oh, okay.
look how
So was it stuck? Was it still stuck in there, or did it fall out?
It had fallen out. when
the
he was
blood,
running.
like, Riker found the first blood.
Did he?
Yeah, he did.
I was like, what, there's one here? Didn't jump the fence either.
I cannot see.
Putting on some fat for winter.
Huh?
Putting on some fat for
I
winter.
just can't
You want
believe
to do it?
Yeah.
So we hang the deer from our workout bench. What is this thing? This is a squat bar. I don't know. It's something, it's some CrossFit, you know. You put your weight on it and you do your squats. It's also a pull-up bar, but we hang our deer from it. So it works out really, really good. This hung overnight, and we were able to get it into the butcher the very next day. So early in the morning, it's about 6 in the morning, Aaron and I are wrapping this Buck up, and we are going to load it into the back of his truck, and then he and the boys are going to take it to the butcher, get it sausaged up, and then in a week we'll pick it up from there. So Aaron's got his back brace on because his back is feeling really tight. He's making sure that he is using his legs to lift, and I'm trying not to fall off this thing that rolls over here on this squat rack. That's what it's called, you guys. Mom brain. I've got autoimmune brain. My brain is foggy, so it is called a squat rack.
Oh, really?
Okay, this morning we're gonna make up a whole bunch of breakfast burritos. So I've got this sausage going. I've got a bit of a mess over here, but we're gonna get some eggs going. The kids had some Danish I picked up on my way home yesterday. They had some of that for breakfast already. Stove's kind of a mess. But anyways, we're getting this going. Throw some eggs on it. Throw them in some burritos. All right, we've got this sausage all cooked up. We are going to put it on a parchment paper lined baking sheet because that makes easy cleanup for this mama, and I will pay the extra money for the parchment paper just so I don't have to scrub or soak another pan. It has been a lifesaver since baby 5 came along, finding shortcuts and ways that I can reduce my cleanup time in the kitchen. So we spend so much time in the kitchen already, we need to limit our cleanup. So we're going to mix up, what is this, 12 or 14 eggs that Hagen cracked into this bowl for me. I'm adding about a cup of milk or so. So you want to do 1 cup of milk per 4 eggs if you're making a quiche, but I'm doing a little bit less because this is going to be kind of a, this is going in burritos. So I don't want to put as much milk. I don't want as moist of a filling. So we just put a cup of milk or 2 cups in to the 12 eggs, and that is just enough. I'm not really sure how much I put in there. I eyeball everything, but if I were going to measure perfectly, I would put 2 cups of milk for 12 to 14 eggs. That is what I would do. And then I would pour it over top of my shredded cheese mixture and sausage, and the oven is preheated. I think I had the heat a little bit too hot, or maybe my rack was a little bit too high, and we're going to find out why. I'm glad that I checked it 5 minutes before the timer went off. So this is a great way to prepare burritos because it makes it a lot easier than trying to scramble everything up in my cast iron skillet. This way I can cook twice as much, and I'm not having to sit there and babysit the skillet and make my spatula a mess and all that kind of stuff. So this is a great way to cook a whole lot of eggs and sausage and everything all at once. All right, I have this mulled spice mix that I got from Azure Standard last year. So we are going to, I had to go by Walmart yesterday. I didn't do a grocery haul because I only grabbed like a handful of things. I saw this apple cider, so I grabbed this. And then I grabbed the kids another treat, and I had to get Aaron pork rinds. So I was at Walmart to get pork rinds. We grabbed this. I have this fresh mulled spice mix. We're gonna put this into a jar, and then we're going to put some of it into, our little tea sack. All right, so I put 4 teaspoons into my bag, into here. I'm just gonna tie it up neatly. And then the kids wanted some apple cider this morning, so we're also making up breakfast burritos. We're gonna use this pot right here to simmer up some apple cider. For the family. Take our little satchel and just drop it in there, and once it starts to heat up, it'll get going. What I love about this mulled spice is that you can just put it in some water on top of your stove top or on top of your wood stove, and you're gonna have a beautiful fragrant scent all season long. So today we're gonna do it in the apple cider, but I think we're gonna be using this in a simmer pot throughout this season because I have so much of it, and we don't drink mulled wine, but we do drink mulled apple juice or mulled cider. So we won't use all of this up anytime soon making mulled drinks, so we'll be using it in simmer pots. I may have overcooked this. I put it at 400 and I should have done 350. It was 420 minutes, but that's what I set the timer for, but it was only 400 degrees for 15 minutes. So learn from me and set it at 350. My rack is also too high, so that's why it's like this, but it's gonna be fine. Cheese is just a little crunchy in those burritos. It'll be good. And it worked out because this is the leftovers, so Aaron's gonna have these. All right, now we're just gonna serve the kiddos up some cider. This is my favorite way to cook bok choy. I just saute it up in some coconut oil or some tallow, whatever I have on hand. And then we are going to put some chili flakes in it, some onion, some garlic, and then serve it with this meat. Delicious. In my last video, I shared with you all my favorite pumpkin muffin recipe. This is also my pumpkin bread recipe. So in that video, I share with you how to make the pumpkin muffins and how you can bake it all to bake a pumpkin zucchini loaf of bread. So be sure to go and check out that video and go back in my channel and check out all my old videos too. I have so many meal prep videos for inspiration on my channel. Lots of recipes. If you use the search bar when you're on my channel, you can search anything. You can search food preservation, you can search meal prep, you can search specific recipes that you've seen on my channel. You can type those in, and that will bring up the videos that those recipes are used in. So if you need some ideas, you can comment below or go check out my playlists, and you will be sure to get lots of muffin ideas, breakfast ideas, dinner ideas, different types of bread, baking inspirations, sourdough bread. This channel used to be focused on sourdough bread until I became celiac, and then the sourdough stopped. Actually, it kind of stopped after baby number 5, but previous to baby number 5, we exclusively ate sourdough for bread in this house. So there's so many sourdough recipes on my channel. I would love for you to check all of those out. This is my first time doing this, but I am going to make one of those egg yolk lattes. So I'm starting out with a little bit of honey in my cup. I'm going to add some hot coffee in my cup, and then we are going to separate a yolk from the whites of an egg. And this is a local pastured egg from my lovely neighbor down the road. And we are going to add this to our cup and get it blended up. Here. I'm doing an egg yolk latte. Since I can't do milk and I'm supposed to cut back on eggs, I'm going to try to get used to duck eggs, but I'm going to start out with chicken eggs. It looks gorgeous. I got a little out of control there. So this is my egg yolk. I'll be able to stomach this, but we're gonna give it a try. Actually it's not so bad. That's quite delicious. I should probably have some breakfast first, but I'm gonna sip on this while I make myself some eggs. All right, this morning we're doing sausage, just some pork sausage scrambled up with some eggs, and that's how we're gonna feed these hungry kids, and that's how we eat. They're gonna have some fruit too, we always do. I don't always share the fruit, I just show you guys the main course, you know, because fruit is fruit, and when you're eating whole fruit, you don't really do anything to prep it, you just eat it. So yeah, bananas, eggs, blueberries, yum. I'll dry it off. This is a big old back strap from the deer that Aaron got.
I want to go.
I am probably going to work on it in sections because it's so massive.
Be a big volume. Now, that's this one. Bodie did it. Now do you need help down? No. I want help down.
When you buy your cuts of meat from the store, they come to you really clean with a little bit of fat on them, but all of the gristle, connective tissue, and fascia are removed from your cuts of meat. When you process your animal at home, you've got to do this part yourself, and it's somewhat tedious, especially if you're not a professional butcher. I am not a professional butcher, and I do have sharp knives. I'm just learning how to do this. We didn't get a deer or an elk last year, so I'm a little bit out of practice with this, but in previous years, I'm always the one to process the back strap, the liver, the tenderloins, the heart. That's my job in the kitchen. Aaron does the hunting part unless I have to hunt, and then I do this part, and even when I harvest an animal, I still do this part. So I've got a lot to learn because it's not something I do every single day. And it's tedious. Again, it's very tedious. And I've done a whole deer leg, a whole deer quarter before in my kitchen. And that took me many hours because I'm not a professional. And I got really locked up. My shoulders got real tight. My neck got really tight from that because it's just something that my body's not used to doing. I give my hat to the butchers because you all are the real MVPs. This is quite a process. And to process a whole animal, I know once you get used to it and your muscles get used to it, it becomes easier and easier, but wow, it is a lot of work. So just doing these back straps took me a couple of hours, and then I still have the liver and the heart to do, and I've got to process the tenderloin, as well as I'm doing the flank steaks, and they have a lot of connective tissue that needs to be removed from them as well. And this silver skin that is on this meat is called fascia, and it is what holds our body together. Our fascia is fascinating. They're learning so much about it and how this connective tissue is such an integral part in our health and our wellness, and how our body functions. Our fascia is really fascinating. So that is what I'm working on, is just peeling off all of that tough connective tissue on all of this meat and getting this meat ready to be frozen, because we're not going to eat all of this backstrap this week. We do want to save some of it for down the road. The backstrap, the flank steaks, the tenderloin, the heart, the liver. Those are all things that I am taking care of here at home. Everything else is off to the butcher. He's getting the whole carcass. He'll return the sausage. Here I am vacuum sealing all of the back straps that I have processed into steaks. This is a Game Saver vacuum sealer. I will link a similar vacuum sealer down below in this video's description, but I have had this for about 8 years, and I use it every year that we harvest an animal, and we have harvested animals, I would say the last 6 out of 8 years, we have harvested animals from the woods or from our yard, and we have used this Game Saver. So if you are a hunter, if you are a homesteader, it's definitely worth the investment so that you can vacuum seal and package up all of your meats at home and preserve them in the freezer for long-term food storage. This is also the same vacuum sealer that I use to vacuum seal dry goods in my glass jars. It has a little accessory port that you can see in green right here at the front of the screen on the front of the machine. And that's where you hook up your accessory so that you can vacuum seal your jars. I love this vacuum sealer. I'm so glad that I got it. It fits in one of my tea drawers. In the back of my tea drawer, it's out of the way. And I always have it when I need it, whether it's to vacuum seal produce for the freezer, meat, or if it's to vacuum seal freeze-dried elderberries to ship out to you all. And as I work through this meat, I'm just laying it flat on a tray, and then I'm gonna throw this into the freezer, let these freeze, and then stick them in a box or a bin in the freezer. I just have to label one more of these. I have to label this one back strap. So I've got 3 back straps so far and 1 flank that I cut up. And we'll just use it in a stew because it's probably going to be pretty tough. So I'll just stew that, or maybe I'll can it. But for now, I'm just going to freeze it. And then I have a little jar of discard little pieces of meat that I'm going to can up. So I'm making some caramelized onions. We're also making some black beluga lentils back here. It's 3 cups of water, 1 cup of lentils, and you simmer it for about 20 minutes. Bring them to a boil and then simmer them down low for 20 minutes. And we've got these caramelized onions. We're also going to do some red Swiss chard that we are going to kind of saute in with this. Then we're going to drain our lentils, mix it all together, and we're going to have a lovely dish. I'm going to make a Greek yogurt dressing with some lemon juice and salt. And we're going to have a lovely lentil meal for lunch. These onions are being cooked in coconut oil. I am trying to stay away from pork fat, and I will start using beef tallow and coconut oil in my cooking and in a lot of the cooking I do for the family, because I'm trying to eat I'm trying to do keto. I'm not sure that I'm going to eat this, but I'm making this for the family, and definitely not the Greek yogurt stuff because that's dairy. But anyway, so I'm just showing you guys what I'm making the kiddos for their lunch. It's kind of like a late lunch. It's 1 o'clock. We had a late breakfast, and it's been kind of nutty around here. So caramelizing these onions. I'm not doing the best job cooking one hand. I should set up my tripod. Y'all know how it is around here. We're just trying to get this food cooked up. So now we're just going to mix in these greens with these onions and get them wilted up. Throw in a little bit of vinegar, and then this will be, not all the kids are going to like or want to try this, so it'll be like a side to their lentils. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit of vinegar, a splash of vinegar on these and serve it up. Show you what it looks like. Oh, I'm gonna make the sauce too. Okay, so right here we've got some yogurt. We're just gonna do a little bit of lemon juice with that and some salt. Mix it up, and I'll show you. Oops, the salt, the lemon juice. I'm gonna mix it up. Got that. We've got the lentils, and we have the sauce. And I only have 3 of my children here today, so this is how I'm serving up their lentil lunch. I hope you give this a try. You can use any greens that you want to. Caramelizing onions is really simple. It makes them nice and sweet. You can also add a splash of vinegar. I think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna just splash everything, the greens and that with a little bit of apple cider vinegar. You can do balsamic vinegar or whatever you have. I'm gonna do apple cider. It'll help with the digestion and the acid in their stomach. It'll help them digest this and get all the nutrition. All right, I'm gonna cut all this white stuff off of these tenderloins and probably wash them up a little bit and cook them in butter and salt.
It's so much harder now to reach you. Your heart is floating in the sky. We known each other for so long. We know our love like an old song. Sing along one more time. It's so much harder now to please you. Your smile is fading with the rain. And we known each other for so long. And I know you struggle to stay strong. Sing along with me again. When storms are rolling in to make this hard to last, let us light 'em up, light 'em up. Let us light 'em up, light 'em up. If we start remembering bad memories of the past, let us light 'em up, light 'em up. Let us light 'em up, light 'em up. Oh. Let us light 'em up, light 'em up. Let us light 'em up, light 'em up. Let us light 'em up, light 'em up. It's so much harder now to reach you. Your heart is floating in the sky. We known each other for so long. We know our love like an old song. Sing along with me again. When storms are rolling in to make this hard to last, let us light 'em up, light 'em up. Let us light 'em up, light 'em up. If we start remembering bad memories of the past, let us light 'em up.
All right, I've got some deer flank steak that I've sliced cross grain in here, and I'm gonna throw some of this chorizo seasoning I have left over on it once I get it browned up a little bit. And then I'm gonna chop an onion and put an onion in there with it, and then it's just gonna slow cook all day. Okay, this is just a chorizo spice blend pack. About a year or 2 ago, I bought a bunch of these on sale. We've been using it on various recipes. So today we're gonna put it on this deer meat flank steak. And we're gonna put some more onions. I started to put those in there and then I was like, well, maybe I should saute this flank steak in the seasonings for just a minute and get them aromatic. And then I'll add the rest of the onions. And then, as I said, we're going to slow cook this all day. And then we'll have it on tacos or something this evening. Maybe we'll put it on rice for the kids, over rice. So we'll see. All right, this needs just a smidge of water so that it doesn't burn, but it doesn't need a whole lot because it's going to create its own juices as well. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to put this lid on, say bye-bye, slow cook it. Okay, tonight we bought this cheddar jalapeno bread, and I am serving up this deer meat flank steak over top of it with that chorizo seasoning, and we're just having sandwiches, or the kids and Aaron are having sandwiches. All right, breakfast this morning for me, or brunch because it's late in the day. I typically don't eat till around like noon. So this is red Swiss chard with some caramelized onions over top of 4 fried eggs. Delicious.